kind of find it a little bit ironic that the Sunday right after Christmas, right after this holiday season, that we celebrate the Feast of the Holy Family. A time to focus on family, a time to think about the Holy Family as our role model, as somebody that we want to follow because they were joyous, they were devout, but we focus on family, the goodness of family, right? And the reason I find this ironic is that, yes, the holiday season, the Christmas season, this year maybe not so much as usual, but it's about family, right? I mean, don't we get together with family just several of the days? If it's not just our immediate family, our extended family, maybe our work families, we spend a lot of time together. But I think in these days following that, we're ready to be done with family. Come and stay as long as you want, eat as much as you want, drink as much as you want, said no one ever. Yes, it's about family, but the reality is that when we get together with family, sometimes the brokenness in the glass or the cracks in the glass of the family begin to show through. I mean, face it, reality, right? I mean, yes, we love having that family around, but sometimes those relationships stress us out. Sometimes too much family stresses us out. Even on Christmas Day, I'm going to pick on my own kids right now, okay? Megan and Jake have 2 dogs. Luke now has a dog. I have 2 dogs. So guess what happened on Christmas Day at my house? Not only did we have all the kids and everything, but it was the 5 dogs to boot. And believe me, one dog barks, the next one barks and barks and barks. But I was just like happy, okay? Sure, bring them along. I'm just kidding. I do like the dogs, Megan and Jake. Don't worry. But you know what? It raises the stress. And at one point in the night, were they happy to see all the dogs go? Sure. Because that's just the way it is, Sometimes, like I said, we get together and family is beautiful and we love it, but sometimes we need to just step back a little bit. And as I was reflecting on the Holy Family and this feast, I started to think of 2 things. 2 things that I think can help us think a little bit more about our families. Now, I want you to know there's not a whole lot that we do know about the Holy Family. There's not a whole lot is written there, especially about, the adoptive father, Joseph. We really don't know a lot about him. But there's a couple things that we do know. And, of course, they were devout, religious, because they were coming to the temple, of course, to do their religious duty, to bring Jesus forward to be presented. They were faithful. They were faithful and obedient. And I think that's real important. But the 2 things that I really wanted to reflect upon, is, number one, that family's important to us. Having family around is important to us. And so the Holy Family, I look at that as a beautiful example because how did God come into the world? God came in through a family. God came into this world as a child and grew up in a family just like us. And I think that's significant to understand and to embrace because it enables us to do one thing, and that is to get to know him. Or else to look at him and say, he knows what it's like to live in a family. He knows what it's like to have those challenging moments that might come with being family. And I think that's just so important. I mean, I'm sure God could have come in many different ways. He could have come in as Superman, right? And boy, wouldn't we have been impressed? Flying in with his cape and all the strength and everything. He could have done that, but we probably would have stepped back and said, well, I'm not like you. You're not like me, so you don't really understand me. But instead, no, he came in as a child and in a family so that we could relate to him and he could relate to us. We could get to know him. He could have came in a cloud. He could have came in a lot of different ways. But he is inviting us to say, I want you to know me. I want to be in your life. I want you to follow me, so I'm making it easier for you to get to know me. And I'm sure they had some of the same struggles that we all have. We don't know for sure just because we don't know a lot. The one thing, the one image we have at 12 years of age, we know that the parents were frustrated. Why? Because, they had come to the temple, they took off, and where was Jesus? At 12 years of age, he wasn't with them. Was he being this squirrely little boy that just wandered off? Of course, he was in the temple. But they experienced that frustration. They experienced that challenge. That little incident shows us that he understands us. He understands what we're going through. He understands our family struggles. He understands our family and everything that goes along with that. Now, the second thing that I started to reflect on, when I started to think about Mary and Joseph bringing Jesus in, is that we all have need of a Savior. We all have need of a Savior. The fact that they brought him, through to the temple for the presentation, to do their religious duty, to bring him forward. Look at the story of Simeon and Anna. They waited patiently. They waited patiently for the Savior. But they needed to see the Savior. They needed the Savior in their life so that their life could be complete. And I think that's so important for us to think about too, that we all have need of the Savior in our lives to make it complete, to bring it to fulfillment. What does that mean? When I think about my own personal life and my own personal struggles, I need that Savior. I need Jesus in my life to get me through to the point where I see fulfillment, or I see peace, or I see understanding. I just think about, the loss of my own mother and the death of my own mother. What would we have done as a family without that need of a Savior? What would we have done without that faith? What would we have done without the ability to embrace our Savior's message of compassion and healing and mercy to get us through that? I've told you before that, I end up, doing funerals a lot of times at the funeral home for families that don't have a church connection. And it's interesting just to see the difference. People without a faith, there's extreme sadness. There's extreme mourning. And that's okay because that is a part of being human. But people that have faith, that have that Savior in their life, there's some sense of joy and celebration of life and hope for what is to come. We have that need for the Savior. And Mary and Joseph did that for us by bringing him along and raising him and bringing him to the people. Remember, it is through that family that the Savior came to God's people and that was revealed to God's people. Lots of struggles. Another thing I always like to talk about, is my divorce. A lot of people say, how can you talk about it so openly? I do, because it was my Savior that got me through it. Now, reality, I'm a church guy. I'm a minister. I'm a deacon. That shouldn't have ever happened to me, right? And there was a point where I was so ashamed, I was so fallen, I was so down on my knees, but it was getting down on my knees and saying, I need you, Jesus. I need you more than ever right now. And it raised me up. It's the family struggles that we turn over to Him, that we give to Him, and it gets us through. Not going to say it's going to make it perfect, because guess what? The dogs are still going to come over to my house, and I welcome them. But it brings me that patience that Anna had, that Simeon had. When they stayed faithful and they stayed obedient, that's what it's about. Today we celebrate the Holy Family, and we want to model ourselves after them. But I think the bigger thing is just focusing on the fact that God brought Jesus into this world through a family for us. to get to know him, and then to say, we need you, Savior, in our lives to get us through whatever difficult, challenging moments we have. And I know it's not easy, because most of the time we want it to happen like that. But think about Anna in the story in the gospel. Many, many years of prayer, many, many years of devotion. And she was able to smile and say, my Savior is here. We need a Savior. We thank Mary and Joseph for bringing him to us. We thank God for bringing him to us the way that he did. So I encourage all of us to think about that, to step back and say, I need you, Jesus, today. Help me in whatever struggle that we're going through, with whatever struggle that's happening in our life.